What's going on, everybody, and welcome into HiBruiNation, the unofficial home of your Boston Bruins, and a happy new year to everybody that is tuning in and listening. I am joined, as always, by my two astonishing co-hosts, Mr. Hatrick, Jack Finn himself, and Steve the Chavo. Fellas,
what's up? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Merry belated Christmas, I suppose, yeah?
Merry belated Christmas. I don't know if I've heard that before, but that's good.
I don't know. I didn't see you guys for Christmas, so we took a week off, spent some time with our families. Jack got a boo-boo on his hip, so hopefully he's back in action soon.
Yeah, I went skiing on New Year's Eve. It was my first runs of the year. I just went to watch Wachusett because it's closest to where I am. And on my second run, I decided to go off like a divot jump sort of thing. And yeah, my legs just went right up in the air and I fell right smack down on my left hip. And it's been hurting. And just like today, it's starting to bruise, like a deep purple bruise. So maybe we'll be sending a few scandalous pics to the podcast boys later on tonight to show the damage that is now protruding out. But yeah, so I'm probably,
he's back on the IR.
Yeah, IR for now. Thankfully not LTIR. They don't have to cap circumcise me or whatever the fuck, So, but yeah,
I'm circumcised. That's nice.
Yeah,
what a crazy comment.
Cap circumvention. There we go. Something like that. But yeah, I'm a little banged up, but I'm good. I'm doing okay.
So, well, guys, welcome in. I hope you guys had a wonderful time with your families and a happy new year and a happy holidays. I hope you guys absolutely had that and, rested up well. While we were away, the Bruins did, okay, I guess they went 2-2-1 in the time frame from our expectations, but our predictions and up until now. We got a good show for everyone else who's watching. We're going to talk about the state of the team that we always normally do, some new year, new approaches. We're going to touch upon the World Juniors, especially with James Hagens and Will Zellers. And the Bruins have some Olympians going to the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan. And maybe perhaps some drama around 2026 Winter Olympics as well with respect to the NHL. Guys, who got snubbed? Geeks got snubbed. Sure. We'll definitely get into that. I believe it was the US, Swedish, Finnish, and Canadian rosters have been officially announced. I think they're still waiting on Czechia and a few others. So as those come in, we will definitely talk about them for any Bruins that will make them. Bruins, guys, sit at a record of 22-18-2 for 46 points, 2 points out of a playoff spot. The Western road trip, not bad, not great. It ends, I believe, Tuesday with Seattle.
Yeah, the Kraken.
So hopefully we can go, since our last break, 3-2-1, and get ourselves, in a more positive record. What did you guys feel?
Well, I would say my analogy for this week, and you also might hear some like banging noises around my room. I do have a new cat, and she is very curious, so that'll be interesting. But for my analogy this week, as I was kind of prepping for our show, I thought of the good old pendulum. We saw the pendulum swing this past week back and forth. Bruins, they were in a slump, not showing up and doing what they need to do to be successful and to push teams back. This team has swung back and forth on the pendulum from being playoff contenders to big sellers, especially the last few weeks leading into the new year. It was getting a little concerning, but once they get to their game and play as how they want to, they get to the game with speed, aggression, and some nastiness, they can have a lot of success. And it's a matter of getting to that every game and trying to not let mental mistakes happen, which was a common theme throughout that slump as well. But we saw the switch once we beat the Oilers. The whole team got a nice bump of confidence from it. And like Sway said after the game, it's something they can and seemingly are building on to really build some momentum and charge towards that trade deadline, where We're going to see the direction we're going. Will they be able to sustain it, improve their playoff contenders? We have to keep on watching and seeing how this team shows up every game and how they're going to get to their game. But when they do, man, they're a fun team to watch. So I hope they just keep building on the momentum. But we saw a switch, and I think we want to keep building on that positive switch. What do you think, Chavo?
Honestly, was not impressed by any of these games. I was shocked to see Oilers that we beat them, but I mean, this team is just so.
They're still frustrating. Down. They're still very frustrating at times.
They are. They're probably the most frustrating Bruins team I've ever watched in my entire life. And yes, they're still kind of fun to watch, but for the most part, for me, I just found myself getting pissed off, just constantly, just more than I usually do, because we've seen how good this team can actually be when they play, and then they go ahead and do dumb things, right? Like, I remember watching the game, was it last night? And I stayed up till 1 a.m. to watch the game. And it was just like penalty after penalty after penalty and just stupidness, like stupid penalties. And it's like, great. Like, we're going to blow another game because we just get down on penalties and just you can't stay out of the box. And not to say that, the power play or PK is bad. It's just when you're
PK is.
Yeah, the PK, I mean,
PK
it was good. And then, but when you're the most penalized team in the league consistently every game, it wears down on you. And then
you're constantly being tested. It's
exactly.
only a matter.
And it's like the way they even play on, the PK, it's just one of those things where any goalie that you can put the best goalie in the world out there and they're going to let some goals in because of just how much pressure the other team is just creating and how many shots they generate on the PKs. I mean, last night, I think there was 33-21 shots. We still won in overtime, but you can't consistently win hockey games when you're being outshot by your opponent that often. And that's kind of been the whole season. You're just constantly getting outshot, and you're constantly having to play, you're forced to play other teams' games instead of playing your own game, especially being down on the penalty all the time.
Is this a hot and cold team, Steve? Would you consider it that?
Yes.
Because, when they're hot, and when they're cold, they're frozen. You know what I mean? I think when you look at it, and especially when you look at October, not a great start. They picked it up in November. Then they go lukewarm, I guess, in December. And then, they go stone cold by the end of December, going, I think it was 1-3-1 on the 5-game homestand. That's unacceptable, by the way. So I would consider that a massive waste of, right before the Christmas break. And I get it, team cited fatigue, but, you're just getting inklings of, the piss and vinegar model that they want to add. It's great, but you need to also couple that with skill. And I think we've touched upon that as well previously. So I think if you would agree, the team is hot and cold.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the pendulum comes in my eyes. It's a matter of how this team is going to prepare and show up. And there's, different themes that you can pick in and out from each game. But to kind of go with the hot and cold, it's, that's where I see, the pendulum as well. It's a matter of, where this team is going to fall and how they're showing up. So,
and to add to Steve's point, Steve mentions getting outshot, getting, going on the penalty kill, the amount of penalties that the Bruins are taking. And, this isn't doom and gloom for the Bruins. I mean, the Eastern Conference is extremely tight in points. I mean, it's very, very tight. So a lot of teams fighting for the wild card spot. But the Bruins defensively, 5-on-5 and goals against per 60, they're at the bottom of the league per hockeystats.com. They allow the most goals against per 60 minutes. It's not great on 5-on-5 play. So where do you go from there, Steve?
I mean, I'm not shocked that they're the worst 5-on-5 team in the league. Again, it's
goals against.
And goals against.
I want to say defensively.
Yeah, well, that comes down to defensive zone breakdowns that are constantly happening. But it doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise anybody, because it seems like it seems like to me other teams are getting to their game before the Boston Bruins, more consistently than not.
Definitely,
Right?
definitely. Then that last stretch of December, it was we couldn't get off to a good start.
We couldn't get off to a good start at all. I mean, most of the games, I think the Vancouver game last night was the only one where we kind of got off to a good start, and we kind of started molding our will on other opponents. It's just you can't play the piss and vinegar style and let the team outshoot you, outmaneuver you. You gotta enact your play style right from the puck drop, and they're falling back onto it, and then they're getting started way too late. It's just that's the constant theme overall. It's just they want to play with piss and vinegar, but they don't make teams pay when they're just carrying it into the zone. Like it's just a constant.
The opposite can be said on the offense, because the offense, I believe, is it's in the top 14 in the league in goals for per game. So the offense is scoring goals, which is despite what many people, many analysts suggested was going to be the Bruins' Achilles heel to start the season. They thought the defensive structure and the defensive personnel, based upon what we saw last year, with Zadorov, Jokiharju, Hampus Lindholm, McAvoy, and then Low-Rye Peak. But then in walks Marco Sturm. And again, I just want to this is going to be a question. And then, I don't want to rag on the Bruins because, again, they're only 2 points out of a playoff spot, but also there's some frustrating aspects to it. Do you guys think with where they are in terms of the standings and the goals against in the defensive play, do you guys think that is more because of the defensive structure / the system, or do you think it's the defensive personnel, or is it both? We'll start with Jack.
I think both. We can pick on guys on our defensive end who have struggled, to say the least. Our poor guy Low-Rye, it seems that we're bringing him up every week. But for the most part, other than that, our defense has been pretty solid. We're standing up, we're taking the body, we're closing lanes off. And when guys like McAvoy, who we look to help lead games, when they're on it, man, like we're tough back there. But there's some guys like Peak and Low-Rye where sometimes I don't know, but they have good offensive flashes sometimes. Like when Peak scored, it was the Calgary game, I think. When he scored that goal, I swore it was Bosnock, and then I saw the replay and I was like, oh, that was Peak just charging right to the net. It looked like a classic Pastrnak flash. And I think our defensive structure is solid. It has been throughout the coaches we've had. During Monty, it kind of changed up a little bit, but it's a matter of implementing it the best we can. And Sturm has done a good job at it, but we've seen that not be the case as well. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
For me, I think it's a bit of both. I definitely think it's more of who we have back there as kind of like the lead factor, because you have the training camp, you have the preseason, and we have basically played half the games, right? More than half the games at this point, and it's up to the defenseman to know the system and learn the system and execute the system. And by now you should have seen it be more consistent with the defensive zone, how they're running it back there. But also I think there's another aspect that neither of you brought up, where this isn't a new defensive system. This isn't like something that's revolutionized the game. It's the same shit that we've seen over the past 30 years of hockey, right? It's just different tweaks into it. But when you have coaches that have been around that long and have seen these things, they know how to defeat said system, right? It's not just the players not being able to execute it. It's other coaches telling their forwards how to beat the system and what works and what doesn't work, right? We've seen it with the speed game. When you have really talented, fast offensive players, they're going to beat your defenseman because the system that's in place isn't good enough to keep up with the speed. That's just how it works. And you're seeing coaches take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to preface this like the Bruins are 2-0-0 to start the new year. So I mean, it's a good thing to start the new year on. It seems that's where we're trending in the right direction. I tend to agree, I think, more with Steve that it's a bit of both, because I believe that there are issues with the defensive system and that some players are not getting on the bus, as Marco Sturm earlier in the season, had cited that he doesn't believe that some players, just say like, oh, we're just not, we got one foot in the door, but the other foot's still lagging. I would like to blame some of it on injuries. I would like to blame some of it on the players themselves. I would like to blame the personnel and itself. And obviously the defensive system and lacking of, I think, adjustments. And I think in Vancouver, the game that we played on Saturday, that was one of the few times we actually saw adjustments between first and second period. You could clearly tell that the defense was adjusting a bit, and then Vancouver adjusted back. I think that was the first time in a little while that I've actually you could clearly indicate that was going on. So I do think it's both. And you both bring up great points. And you're right, Steve, but you're right. For over the last X amount of years, right? Hockey defensive structures and defensive play styles don't really change, but there's little nuances that coaches bring in, right? And so maybe the little nuances that Sturm could be bringing in could also be slightly confusing to the overall, picture.
And that's someone who's a first-year coach too, or NHL coach. It's a matter of getting that message across still, I think. And we've been seeing more of that as it goes along too. But, I think those nuances go into, experience and how you get it across to your players. And I think, we're seeing Sturm build that with his players every game. So, or trying to.
It's year one of a new coach. I've never seen year one of a new coach go extremely well. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. You either see it go very well or pretty poorly for standards of the team. You never really see it be middle of the pack too often. But this is a special case where you are seeing it in the middle of the pack, but I think it's because of also the veteran presence that is there. So defensively, I think there's holes. Everyone knows that, and the biggest issue is the right defenseman. We've touched on that before the holiday break. But man, I think there's definitely some things that need to be considered come trade deadline time, and the money that you're spending on certain players. So I think just take a look at that and see how they're developing. And I think the biggest bottleneck right now, not the bottleneck, but one of the biggest struggles right now too, is if you don't think certain players are playing well, like the Andrew Peak or Lorai or Yoki Haru, you don't have any other defensemen to really put in the lineup right now due to injury and call-up limitations, because some defensemen have only one-way contracts and they would have to clear waivers. So it adds layers of complexity to what the Bruins can do in order to punish or set an example for certain plays.
Yeah, definitely.
We mentioned this a couple times too, and Jack, you mentioned it in the opening of the show too about trade deadline. What is your guys' trade deadline criteria that is going to be determinant of a buyer versus a seller? Do you guys look at a specific date? Do you guys look at a specific record? Placement points from a playoff spot? What do you guys look at, and where do you see this team adding? Because you can also add by subtraction too. So taking all of what we said about the defensive structure in mind and where the Bruins clearly need to improve for 2026.
I think for the East this year, placement and points from a playoff spot doesn't necessarily matter as much, just with the speed of the game and how we've seen the standings shake up this year. So, I mean, unless it really starts to break away, which we've discussed could happen and we thought maybe, but it's still very tight. I don't think placement and points really is that big of an indicator. However, I think it's a mix of your record and and the date kind of, good 2 to 3 weeks before, the trade deadline. If you're still trending above 500 and goal minus differential is a weird stat, but if you can work on that a little bit and close that gap, which is indicator of your, your defensive abilities and all that, I think it's tough again just because of how middle of the pack we've seen this team a little bit to determine buyer versus seller trade deadline. Like I don't know, I'm having a little trouble, but I think if good 2 weeks out from the trade deadline, if they're trending pretty well, and the frustration, as we've seen the Chavo express at times, is less as a whole from Bruins fans, I think you go for it. I think you're a buyer, and I think you really got to use the assets and what you have now. So, yeah, I would be intrigued to see, what the record is like, a few weeks, maybe even like a month before the trade deadline, and we can kind of more, accurately assess then. But yeah.
All right. So just so I understand perfectly, a little bit more clear. So you're going off of a specific date. So you're looking at you have a date in mind, 2 to 3 weeks prior to the trade deadline. That's when you start to evaluate the team at its fullest. That's when you're going to make that determination and how you're going to approach the deadline. Just so I understand.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're gonna kind of teeter along as we go and see which way this team trends. But I would say, yeah, because it's hard to say, But I would say it confidently, like a good 3 weeks before the state of the team, and I think that's where you can really start to assess whether you're a buyer or a seller.
And before Steve goes, I'm just going to quickly explain, why I'm asking you guys this question this early in January when everyone's going to be like, we have a whole 2 months before this. It's the looming schedule that the Bruins are going to have towards the end of the season. And if you guys haven't looked at
it's tough.
March and April,
yeah,
it's the back end of the season is being back, game heavy because of the Olympics. So with that, keep that in mind as we have this conversation for those of you who are listening. Like, it's just not to have an immediate plan to discuss buyers or sellers. It's just like having that in the back of your mind. How are you going to approach this year's deadline? Because it's unique. Steve, please go ahead.
This is such a tough question because it is the most unique version of a trade deadline scenario. Right?
Exactly. It is unique.
You're going to have some injuries, right, for the Olympics, right?
Possibly.
That team. No, I mean, you're going to have injuries. The fact of the matter is, all these teams that have already published their rosters, you're probably going to look at least 1 to 2 guys being removed off that team before because of injuries. It's not just the Bruins who are banged up. Everybody this year is banged up. And that's kind of the theme of this year, right? And if this wasn't if this wasn't an Olympic year, I'd be saying, hey, we're only 2 points out of playoff contention. We're really trying to push for it. We know we have gaps we need to fill. I'm trying to make something happen now, right? Because we've seen what we have. Our right side of D is just not working out. We need to get someone, a top 4 guy up there. We need another one desperately. And my thinking is getting ahead of the situation, because also if you can lock someone down for another year or two, going into next season and having kind of some games and chemistry built up, that gives us a better chance for next season. But since this is a an Olympic year, it's so tough because you don't know who's going to get hurt in the Olympics, because it happens all the time. I mean, Charlie McAvoy, 4 Nations face-off. We didn't have.
I was going to say 4 Nations, like that. The amount of injuries that came out from that very short tournament was crazy.
And it's crazy. And people are playing for Olympic gold. You know what I mean?
The stakes are even higher.
It's even higher. And so you don't know who's going to even make it out of the Olympics. And that's where the real complications come in And if I'm Don Sweeney, I'm looking right after the Olympics, right after the break, because
Yeah,
So
I
think
agree with
that-
Steve.
So I think
Go.
that's right around Jack's estimation. So about 3 weeks before, because I think it's March 27th. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head. But I think it's a few weeks after. So okay, no, that's reasonable. It's a good that's a good argument because you don't know. A lot of these teams are sending probably at minimum 6 players to the Olympics, to their Olympic team, their nation's teams. That's really hard to predict, and especially in this year. I'm actually gonna say before the Olympics.
Really?
I'm going to be a little aggressive with that and say, because you're already at the halfway point of the season, you have a backloaded schedule, significant backloaded schedule. And I think you also, like Steve would assume, that there's probably going to be some injuries, could be major, could be minor, could be day to day, could be week to week, could be month to month. You don't know. It's unpredictable. And like you said, perfect case in point was Charlie McAvoy. The poor guy had an infection in his shoulder. It's really hard, man. Like, it's not easy. And like, some of these guys are hockey players, and like, we love to say that they'll battle through it, but also you want to take into consideration their health and the health going into the playoffs and what that means for them and their longevity. I am just before the Olympics. I'm looking at the record. I'm looking at the remaining schedule, the teams that we're going to be facing. And again, if I'm Don Sweeney, I'm just thinking about it, of which way you're going to lean. It doesn't mean you have to have a full plan. I would start thinking about it right before the Olympics and have a contingency plan for if it doesn't work out. That's when I'm going to start thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when my deadline is. So I'm going to cheat a little bit on that one, guys. I'm just going to say, like, yeah, have the contingency, have the plans ready to go for both sides, pre and post Olympics.
You wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't have contingency plans, right?
Well, that's good because I don't think
does Don Sweeney have those?
I mean,
yeah.
I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I mean, his trades are pretty good. I mean, that's the thing, though. It's just what position are we going to be in? If we're still in the hunt and we still have a bunch of not league games, but division games ahead where we can steal points and knock somebody out, okay, it might be worth the push because we're thinking about Stanley Cup contention here. And, another thing is it's just, this draft is supposed to be pretty good. And I don't really want to waste.
Really good.
I don't want to waste assets that we can bring in. You know what I mean? And maybe get some more trades in a year or two after that, right? It's just there's a lot going on this season, and it's a very difficult season. And I'm not envious of any GM that's working right now because there's too much confusion. There's too many what ifs out there, right? I think as the season goes down, keeps trugging along, we're going to see, more clear contenders of who's making the playoffs and who's not making the playoffs. And, then people can really assess what they want to do. But honestly, I mean, I came to the conclusion after the Edmonton game that I'm going to be a seller. I went from buyer
really
to seller. Like I was convinced.
Wow.
You can't win Stanley Cup playoff games being this hot and cold.
Nope, you can't. You can't. But you can write a hot goaltender so far as long as the hot goaltender will take you. But I agree with you there. I'm a soft. We can transition it too. So I'm going to give you the scenario. I mean, obviously, if we're in a position if we're close enough to making a wild card spot, soft buyer. I'm not full buying. I'm not trying to flip all of our first round picks. I'm not trying to make us this rental team that is probably going to go one round, maybe two if we're lucky, if things go that way. I'm not selling all of our assets for it. Soft buyer. I'm focusing on the right defensive side. And then as soon as the draft comes around, then I'm looking at left wing. We need a left wing. Or if you can't get the right defenseman, because there's a lot of right-handed defensemen in the top 16 this year, then you look at the right defenseman there. So I'm looking at all these scenarios, and this is a deep year. But if we're, let's just say, 8 points out of a playoff spot in a schedule that is very, 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 compact, then I'm selling. Soft selling. Not selling the barn. Like I would probably sell Middlestat, Yoki Haru, Low Rye, but also some of those pieces subtract to add. So if a guy like Rasmus Anderson came along, which by the way, I believe now some people are on the bandwagon with Rasmus Anderson as well, but the only issue is he needs to come with an extension. But that also addresses the soft buying element to it, but you're also selling on the side and you could probably get a couple more picks. There's multiple avenues I think that this could take. It's just I wanted everyone to kind of really start thinking about it, like with the condensed schedule coming in March, it's going to beat down a lot of teams. So at what point do you really want to see Don Sweeney and Cam Neely start to really consider how they're going to approach this season? And I think you guys answered it perfectly.
Yeah, and I think you helped tie it up pretty well too, Cam. I mean, it really matters on very little things, whether you're going to be hard or soft buyer, hard or soft seller, depending on just many different things. And you put it really perfectly there. So,
and you know what? We have guys, we have forwards that we can trade and get something out of. Right? We have guys that are actually performing for a playoff team. Like, I shouldn't say that. I said we have guys, I think Kostelic is doing a great job, and we could flip him for something to a contender.
Not trading him.
I mean,
nope. He's an untouchable for me.
Why?
Because Corrali is a short-term help. Kostelic is a long-term fourth-line solution, I believe. I don't want them to be given the Trent Frederick treatment, because I think had Trent Frederick reasonably stayed, he could have been a really decent third-line left wing and probably arguably better than Tanner Jeannot, because they're effectively the same player. One is just younger. I just don't want Kostelic to get that treatment, because I believe in a vacuum I would rather have him on my fourth line. I think he brings something to this team. However, I would trade a Sean Corrali, a Michael Eyssimont, a Casey Middlestat for other pieces. I would do that, but Kostelic I think is an untouchable for me.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but nobody's going to want a Sean Corrali. He's old, and I mean, it's just
32.
That's why you got a package though. You would have to add more to that.
Liner. Like, I'm sorry, the guy. Yeah, can he win faceoff sometimes? Yeah, can he kill a penalty sometimes? Sure, but
all the time, he's really good at that.
I mean, his play has kind of been sloppy, in my opinion, for the past month.
Sure.
Like, if I'm being honest, he might just be in a slump, and he might come out of the slump. But if he stays in the slump, it's like, okay, well, I don't really want to pay the two guys to do the same thing, right? You know what I mean? And it's always better to get something out of nothing, right? And I just don't think, like I'm going to bring up Corpusalo. Nobody's going to take him. I'd love to dump that cap space, but no one's going to.
I'd love to pay someone to take him.
I mean, that's the reality of the situation. Are we going to have to pay someone to take Sean Corrali away? I think that's the case. I think
you can get him for a 5th round pick. You can get him you can get a 5th round pick, probably more for him, but he would be packaged.
I mean, sure, he can be packaged, but I don't think that what you have to offer up in the package isn't going to be worth it necessarily. I just don't think there's a buyer for him.
So if you move Kostelic, what does it look like realistically, Steve? Because I'm with Cam. I love that guy.
Listen, I'm with you. But I'm thinking if we're just going to be sellers, we might as well sell some assets that
sell.
It's just sell at this point, because honestly, the more we tank, the better odds we get. And I'm not even trying to tank, but it just seems like the direction of the hot and cold. If we get on a cold streak for 3 weeks, we're gonna continue sinking in the rankings. And it's like, at what point do you just say, fuck it, we're going to just worry about the draft because this is a deep draft and it's supposed to be a good draft, right? When do you start thinking about burning the ships and just saying, hey, sell so we can get more assets and get some people for, picks?
I'm glad you fixed on that, because I got into a Twitter discussion with some individuals today about embracing tanking, and I said, and I quoted, and I guess what I meant by it was got lost in translation. So players don't want to tank, organizations don't want to tank. I think they put themselves in a better draft position, and I think that tanking in the NHL is overrated because in the first round, you just get a hit on your picks. Like, Edmonton Oilers, for example, drafted Neil Yakupov first overall, bust.
Ugh.
Like,
Ugh.
a couple other players were drafted that were busts. Like, you know what I mean, in the first round. And then you look at players like, Kirill Kaprizov, Brad Marchand, Lane Hudson, who was in round 2. You look at Patrice Bergeron. You look at all these players that were also taken in later rounds. So the idea that tanking it should be like this thing that you look at or phrase, like I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear upon that. While I agree that there's talent in the top 5 and that most Stanley Cup champions that have won have had a talent of that caliber on their team, my point being is just that you can't just tank because then you could just as easily get a bust. You know what I mean? That's why they're called a prospect. So don't just automatically assume that, let's just say Gavin McKenna is going to be the next McDavid. Don't assume that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And obviously Don Sweeney's track record of picking people in drafts has been mostly busts. But at what point, right, do you sit there and say, all right, Don, you're out, and let someone else use the draft picks and kind of take it into a different direction?
That was my next question. So my next question was going to be, assuming that the team, or if he oversells or overbuys, because let's be real. I don't know if there's going to be a middle ground there with him, because
nope.
I'm not confident that there's going to be a middle of just like, we'll be a soft buyer or a soft seller. I think it might be one of the either extremes, because that's how he's handled the trade deadlines. How hot would it hit not only his seat, but Cam Neely's seat get?
I think you would like to say it would be hot, but we've seen recent years, just things changing or,
not changing.
We're not changing or, and they're still here. So, I would like to think it's going to be pretty hot. Like this time around, we're going to be like, okay, we gotta hunker down. We gotta make some hard decisions. But there's some ties to these guys, and so yeah. What do you have to say, Chavo?
I mean, it's hot because Cam, I'm with you. Like, I would like to see a sell, to be honest with you, depending on a lot of things. But I mean, I just think the way this team is, it's so hot and cold, and we're missing a lot of, I guess, talent. I mean, there's talent on the team, but we're missing pieces that aren't going to get you Stanley Cup victories, right? I just think that the hot and coldness of this team is going to have to force us into a direction of A or B, right? And it's the extremes of either we're going in and we're trying to bolster this roster so we can make a deep cup run, or we're selling so we can prep for the next year. Because no matter how we cut it up, Don Sweeney's here for this year and next year. There's no doubt about it.
Unless they decide to fire him midway point, but I don't think they will. I think they'll let him. I think they'll let him set up the next successor for future success. I think that would be the plan. That's why I think they gave him 2 years. I want to bring up because you guys brought up great points. It's not going to bring you Stanley Cup victories. And I want to say this, the best way I possibly can. And again, this is all speculative, ladies and gentlemen. Like we're just talking. We're talking about the future of the team, and we know there's a lot of hockey left to be played. We know that anything can absolutely happen. Lots of hockey. We only played 42 games, so that leaves 40 more to play. Awesome. I'm here for it. I'm going to ride or die with the Boston Bruins, but I'm just trying to think ahead and wonder where the mentality is going to go with everything that we mentioned previously in the back of our minds. And I'm going to ask you guys another question real quick. Does this Bruins team... Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Just to give a clear answer, I think Don Sweeney is going to be in a hotter seat if he overbuys and they don't even make the playoffs or gets a first round loss.
Because that's what he tends to do. He tends to go for an overbuy. I think each past trade deadline from when they had that really amazing season, he wants to add to this team. He wants to bolster them. He wants to fight through the narratives and just show that, yeah, they're a playoff team. They can't be a playoff team. We can return back to the same old Boston goodness. It's like he is dead set on it. Like I'm pretty sure on it, but I don't know.
If he overbuys, and then we'll move on to the question I was going to ask. If he overbuys and they don't make the playoff, it's a firing. It's not even, they don't even give him the final year. He's gone.
Yeah.
You cannot, if he gives up both these first round picks that we have this year, and let's just say he gets you, a left wing that's suitable and your right defenseman, and the team still finds a way to miss the playoffs. And let's just say they were only a couple points out at this point in time, but he did enough to bolster the team and the team still collapsed. He's gone. Because then you just wasted your entire future. Because they're not going to just fire Marco Sturm for that. They're not going to do that because they're going to say, like, well, it's just 1 year under the coach, so they're going to have to regroup and do it. No. But I don't see that being the case. I genuinely don't see him being an overbuyer. I think he understands the situation that the team is in. And I think he'll leverage player assets as opposed to draft capital to do it, at least for the majority of it. My question to you guys is, if the Bruins are healthy and they make the playoffs, do you guys genuinely think that they would beat a team like the Colorado Avalanche or the Dallas Stars in a 7-game series in the Stanley Cup final?
No.
Negative.
Yeah.
They're
not a contender.
You don't have the same star power. I mean, and again,
you don't.
You see teams in the playoffs that have success without that. Bruins 2011 was kind of an example. Blues 2019. We've seen, teams who really fight for it, and they go for it. But winning formula, it does have some form of elite players though, and guys who can and will match up against the other really good team that they're playing against once they get to the even second, third Stanley Cup final. And I just simply don't see the Bruins in any way being able to compete with a team like that in a 7-game series. They would maybe be able to squeeze out 2 games. That would be kind of lucky, but don't know.
And to be honest with you, I don't think your defense can handle the star power of the Stars or
Oh, exactly.
Or Colorado. I mean, it's just they're fighting. They're in a lower weight class, and everyone else is heavyweights, right? Like
uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle, and you can't contend. You're swinging uphill and fighting uphill the whole way. And I just don't think that. I don't even think they can contend with a lot of teams in their own conference.
We saw against Montreal. We saw the collapse happen once going into the third period. I mean, that game out of this past stretch was infuriating to see the way it just pickled, or just picked apart slowly on. And going into this, second into the third, like they were right there and they were fighting for it. They wanted it, but then hockey's hockey and things got a total collapse and things got in the way. So I think you make a great point. Like, can you even match up against someone that's solid within your division? And in a sustained series, again, I think you could start off hot, but from what we've seen, I could see the pieces coming apart.
Now, like I said, there's a lot of hockey that's left to be played.
Definitely.
The Bruins do have the capacity to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just starting to think of like what realistically should my expectations be if they do. Round 1, maybe. Like if they do. And again, maybe this is way too early thinking of looking at it, but like there's no time like the present to start kind of thinking about it and the way the team is played and so hot and cold. So you can fall down these rabbit holes very easily. But I'm going to be one of those Bruins fans that's still going to be ride or die. But I think I want to also set the expectations, be real with myself, and also put it out there for discussion for those who listen to us too. Is like, what do you really want to see out of this team out of the new year, and how do you want them to approach these situations? Again, knowing how backloaded this back half of the season is going to be, also seeing how tight the points are in the system, and like how do you believe Sweeney and Neely should approach these situations? Like, it's just food for thought, ladies and gentlemen, food for thought. And with that, we're actually going to move on to a discussion about the World Juniors and the Olympics. First of all, thanks, Colorado. Thank you so much for Will Zellers. Thank you.
I told you
Love
guys. I told you.
I told you. I told you.
I
mean,
told you.
what
Hey,
a
I can call the
performance, though. What a performance. And
For real.
and we'll touch on it more later on, but the fact he didn't play a shift in OT is diabolical.
Finland, yes.
But seeing his name pop up in the feeds and highlights, and just seeing how dynamic he was out there, and the response he got, from commentators and people covering the games being like, what who's this, where did he come from?
Yep.
And they, oh, he's going to be a Boston Bruin, and then no one likes that.
Nope. The league hates it.
Oh, they hate it.
They hate it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can touch on it more, but definitely he really was one of the factors that shined through for the US.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably
I told you guys it's going to be special.
Oh yeah.
I remember Steve when he first joined HiBruiNation that he did mention about Will Zellers privately, like, with Whitey and I, and he mentioned, like, the one player, before we got James Higgins, he said, like, one of the players I'm most excited to see isn't even eligible, or he wasn't going to come for like another 2 to 3 years, I think is what you predicted him to be out, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started really doing research on this Will Zellers kid, and I saw a lot of, like, on Twitter, and I'm just like, oh my God, this kid seems phenomenal. He played on the fourth line to start for Team USA, and they quickly realized that was a mistake. And they moved him up and down, and he was I think he was tied for the league, not the league lead, but the lead in scoring in the IIHF World Juniors. And so that's like that's no joke. Like, you have to be talented to play in these national teams. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's no. I mean, look at the Olympics right now. Like, in the NHL. Look how many players in the NHL didn't make their Olympic team. So you're playing against some of the best, and if they're gonna play like that, the way Zellers did, that's amazing. I think he had 3 goals. I don't know if that was still tied at the end of it, but I mean, the kid's good. Thanks, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Justice
I don't care
to Jason Robertson, though.
Yes, I am PO'd at a lot of the selections made by the American team GM Bill Guerin. I question the addition of JT Miller. I question the addition of Vinny Trocheck, despite his 2-way game. But Jason Robertson and Adam Fox not being on Team USA that's shameful.
Yeah.
But then even then, guys, it took James Higgins a little bit, like another Bruins prospect that was in the World Juniors, James Higgins. A little bit of a slower start, but once he got going, you just see him dominate play. I think he needs a little bit, more confidence in just shooting the puck more. But again, it's there. The future for those 2 players of the Bruins looks bright.
I mean, Higgins is still killing it at BC right now.
Yep,
he's still killing it.
Him, Lechino, and Stiga are literally, I think, BC.
Yeah, you can argue that.
Yeah,
you can definitely argue that. I mean, I think he just needs to get adjusted to the game, like the speed of the game. But once he gets adjusted, and it's pretty quick, he makes shit happen. It's just, it's another young, talented kid that you're like looking forward to seeing, and hopefully Don Sweeney isn't there to waste him. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, hopefully, two scenarios: Don Sweeney's not there and he isn't wasted, or Don Sweeney finally, gets yelled at by, Neely, and it's like, hey, we got these 2 kids down in Providence. Why aren't you playing them? What are you doing? You know what I mean? So I think it's going to be one of those 2 things.
I think Zellers will need a little bit more development down in the AHL than I think Higgins would. I think Higgins is going to be NHL ready probably after this year. Maybe they send him down on a stint in Providence just for conditioning and getting used to the speed of the game at the AHL level, and then he can elevate that at the NHL level. So I think there might be a minor stint, or maybe at the end of this season, but I think Higgins is going to see some playing time, I think, before the end of this NHL season, at least in the NHL. I think he will be signing his ELC. But those are 2 bright spots, I think, when you focus at the World Juniors. It was a shame that the Team USA was eliminated by Finland in overtime,
Finland.
in which damn Finnish, all Swedish, no Finnish. But it was a damn shame that Zellers did not see, I believe, a shift in overtime. And, as your leading scorer or something along those lines, I think that was a questionable decision.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to know what was behind that. There may have been something behind the scenes happening. Hopefully nothing too big, but yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It had to be something off the side. Maybe he wasn't feeling good or he tweaked something, but I didn't see much of that game, so I wouldn't be able to say exactly, to quote, but there had to be something going on because, yeah, how does a guy with that much flair and bringing that much energy not get a stint? I don't know.
At least one shift,
Steve, you got
right? Like,
Yep.
how does a guy like that not get at least one shift in OT?
Yeah.
It just baffles me sometimes with some of the coaching decisions, and like clearly he's talented, clearly he's putting work in to make a difference on your team, and you kind of stiffed him like that. And if it comes out that he tweaks something, all right, fine, fair enough, right? You're not going to put an injured player out there in a crucial game time decision mode, right? But still, if it comes out that he wasn't tweaked and it was just like, yeah, I didn't think it was the right call, I'm gonna be pissed. But again, coach's decisions is what it is.
I am desperately trying to get my cat to jump up here, and she won't. She will keep scratching my chair, like jumping up and just like pulling at it. And yeah, I don't know. Sorry, side note.
Gets to parents by Eggy. I mean, there is other good news, guys, too. I mean, I know we kind of spoke a lot of pseudo negative talk about the Bruins, even though I think it was more of constructive and critical thinking discussion. But a lot of Bruins, six of them are going to represent their Olympic teams. McAvoy and Swayman have been named officially to Team USA. Yoki Hardy has been named to Team Finland. Elias Lindholm has been named to Team Sweden, not Hampus Lindholm. And
that's
it is
crazy.
presumed that Pasternak and Zacha are going to make Team Czechia. That is not beneficial, but I think we can make the assumption that those two will likely be on the team. And of course, Geeky misses out on Team Canada. Not really a surprise there, guys, if I'm going to be honest with you. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about our Bruins that did not make their Olympic teams that we were kind of surprised on.
Yeah, I mean, you would. Yeah, I mean, with Geeky, it's tough. He has had a really good season, and he's still proven those haters wrong. But unfortunately, with the skill and what we have in this league and what we've seen the snubs already, it takes a lot to really get yourself onto a roster like that. And maybe if you had 2 or 3 seasons like this, closer to a 5-year stretch of really dominant hockey, then yeah, you would really want to consider him. But he's still going off his pop, and I think it's a justified pop, and he's the real deal. But it is what it is. There's politics involved in everything. But Pasternak said he could join Team Czech in an interview a day or two ago.
Certified man of the people.
Yeah, literally. And honestly, just for the memes, it'd be so funny if he just popped out on the ice for warm-ups for Team Czech, their first game. Everyone's like, wait a second. But yeah, it's a shame. I love Geeks, and I wish he got a little bit more of a look. I think I had some interactions on Twitter a bit ago for this too, and I was for, he doesn't present the strongest case to be starting, obviously, not much of a case, but for a good depth piece or someone to have in as a 13th or 14th forward, or I don't know if I'm doing the math right, but I think you would at least maybe give him that. But again, it takes a lot to get on the roster like that, so it does.
Steve, how do you feel about Geeky? And then we can talk about Hampus Lindholm.
Not surprised, honestly. I mean,
yep.
Look, I mean, Bedard didn't even make Team Canada, and
he's hurt right now, though.
He's
still,
injured.
Right? He's still hurt, but I saw that as well, and I was like, oh my god, this guy is getting snubbed again.
Yeah, exactly. And it's okay, cool. And then I believe Bennett was snubbed as well.
Not surprised.
Wilson made it over him.
Yeah, which that's what I'm kind of shocked about is Wilson.
Your favorite guy.
Well, I arguably think that Bennett is better than Wilson.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like, it's just, and Brad Marchand being on the fourth line of Team Canada projected, right?
So
that
good.
just shows you like how much depth Team Canada actually has.
True.
Right? Where, Celebrini is on that. Did you see the first line for Team Canada that's projected?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
You know what I mean?
Like Crosby, McKinnon, and I don't know
second
who else.
line. That's their second line. Like it's just it's so crazy.
They're going to be
see
really
the
tough to
names.
beat. They really are. I think
They are.
they're the favorites going into it.
Of
I mean,
course.
US makes a good case.
Yeah, no shit.
And I okay, buddy.
Oh my god.
But it's
Like,
just not surprising.
I know I'm speaking the obvious, but US presents a good case as well. But obviously Canada's a favorite. They're always a favorite, but in their roster this year as well, it just proves that even more. Like, goddamn.
Yep.
I love
Exactly.
Canada, and I'm just saying this as a joke to all Canadians who listen to us. Like, you guys have two sports, hockey and moose racing,
They have baseball
and you
for
and
one
baseball.
for one
Fine,
province, for one.
for
All
one.
right, let me
province, fine.
educate you people then. Their two sports are hockey and lacrosse, one for each season, winter and summer.
I'm-
Because
And
it's
maple
fall and spring in Canada.
And they're funded by
I-
maple syrup.
I absolutely love and support all of our Canadian listeners. It was just a joke, so please don't take that to heart. Yeah,
We love you guys.
I agree, guys. The Canadian team is absolutely nuts. They absolutely are the favorites. Here's the thing. I agree with you all. Like, who do you pick for Team Canada with all of that talent? Because notable omissions, and this was from Frank Saravalli, Connor Bedard, Sam Bennett, Evan Bouchard, Jacob Chikrin, Morgan Geekie was listed because I guess he was in consideration. Zach Hyman, Seth Jarvis, Wyatt Johnson, Brandon Montour, Matthew Schaefer, and Mark Scheifele.
Zach Hyman, surprising. I thought maybe he would have got more of a shot. I mean, again, he's not an
Schaefer's
offensive power.
even more surprising to me.
Yeah, he's not an offensive powerhouse, and he has gotten definitely boosted by playing with the Oilers and players like McDavid. I think that's why he's scored all those goals. But he's just a solid, gritty player, and he comes up big in those types of games. Like him being injured for this past Stanley Cup final, not getting a chance to help his team try and redeem themselves against the Panthers again. I think that was one of their Achilles heels. Like when I saw he was injured, I was like, they're done, and they kept it pretty close still, fair to them. But but Florida took it home. But regardless, it's weird.
I just think Geekie had more of an uphill battle fighting for a roster spot on Team Canada, considering the talent that Canada produces for hockey. You know what I mean? In the sheer volume of those players that make the NHL, and it makes sense. It's their sport, and I agree. I agree with them, and they're definitely the favorite. So Geekie had an uphill battle. Where I think the Bruin that did get snubbed was Hampus Lindholm, because Team Sweden has, and I'll just mention the defensemen because I'm not going to mention the forwards because Rasmus Anderson, Philip Broberg, Jonas Brodin, Rasmus Dahlin. I mean, that makes sense. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Gustav Forsling, Victor Hedman, Erik Karlsson. I definitely feel like Hampus Lindholm could have beaten out Erik Karlsson.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think he also
I
could
don't
have
think
beaten
he
out.
could have beaten him out a couple years ago. Let's just say four years ago, right? I don't think he could have. But I
It's
think
the hammer. Like
now he could.
Come on.
Another one I think he could have beaten out is Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He's not.
He actually has had a really good season
me
though.
in Toronto.
No, he's had a pretty good season.
Yeah,
he's
All right.
I mean, defensively, questionable sometimes, I guess, but his offensive powerhouse and the pace that he has played at and what he's projected to finish the team with on Toronto this year, given his past seasons and stuff, I think that was something taken into consideration. But despite that, I still think Hampus could have provided a good case when you look at a player like that or the other Karlsson or anything. He's not super offensively talented. I mean, no, Hampus is. I'm saying Hampus. I mean, he doesn't always show it, but when he does show it, it's nice. He's got a sneaky little wrister, and he's big. He plays soundly. I know she was meowing. So yeah, you can tell I'm getting very distracted by my new pet. I love her very much. But yeah, definitely a snub for sure.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest snub on the Bruins. I think honestly, it's probably the biggest snub in the Olympics as of right now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just shocking. It's just shocking to me.
What do you have to say about that, Cam?
I mean, Adam Fox and Jason Robertson are big ones for Team USA. That one was big. People are gonna argue Lane Hudson. Like, look. I wanna address this real quick with Lane Hudson. People are calling that a snub. I'm not ready to call it a snub yet because he only has 2 years NHL experience. And I know people are gonna bring up the age factor, blah 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 blah. Yes, he's having a good season, but ultimately, I would pick Adam Fox over him. I think Hudson, much like
I don't think he's as dominant as he was in the past. Adam Fox. I mean, he's still
a point per game player, with the Rangers right now. He's having a good season, or his usual self. I think maybe just the Rangers. I have no idea. I can't speak for that. I don't know why they didn't select him. But
can I defend my case real quick?
Sure.
The only reason why I say it's the biggest snub is because if you look at Team Canada and you look at Team USA, we have huge pools of talent to pull from, right? When you look at like a Team Sweden or a Team, Finland, they don't really necessarily have a huge pool to pull from necessarily compared to Canada and the USA. So that's
in terms of elite.
Yeah, in terms of elite.
Sure. Okay, I can say that because I would say outside of maybe their defense. The only thing I have a problem with their defense is old. Like if I had that defense from 10 years ago, yeah, I'd be happy. That's a good defense 10 years ago, except for Jonas Brodin and Philip Broberg, who are relatively younger. Actually, except Brodin, I believe Brodin's 32. But yeah, they're like maybe 5-6 years younger. Sure, I agree with that. I am surprised that Hampus didn't do it, but I think Adam Fox and I actually think Jason Robinson was the biggest snub. That one, was extremely surprising. I think if I were to give it from defenseman, no, I'd still go Adam Fox. Shit, I
think no, it's Adam Fox.
Yeah, I was seriously considering because I didn't want to sound like a homer. But yeah, Hampus Lindholm I think is good. But when I look at the other defenders on that, like Dahlin, Hedman, and those guys, I'm just like Adam Fox is up there with the Dahlins, the Hedmans, and things like that. Hampus Lindholm isn't. Like, you know what I mean? I think he's a good defenseman, but I wouldn't call him the biggest snub. But I think Steve, you bring up a good point. Like, with respect to elite talent pools, and especially considering the age of Erik Karlsson, I just it's not that wide of a gap. It's 3 years, I think, because I think Hampus is 31, 32, and Erik Karlsson is 35, 36. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, I wouldn't have picked a guy like Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, if we're talking in 2017, Erik Karlsson, yeah, obviously. But
right.
That's not now. So you got to look at now. And I think, Hampus definitely provides a better case against someone like Erik Karlsson. But I'm still bewildered by Robertson though. Definitely.
That one was a massive one for me.
Yeah.
I was also shocked by Bedard, but also that you can't have too many players of the same kind of player, I think, on the team. Like, I did like what Bill Guerin said about they're trying to build a team. They're not just trying to put points together. You know what I mean? You do want to build a team. That did give me some Herb Brooks, kind of vibes there for a moment. Mm-hmm. But, in that case, put Marcus Stalcott. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm happy with the Bruins that are going. Just completely surprised that Hampus Lindholm was not considered for Sweden.
Yeah, I think Bedard also is going to take it very personally, which as he should. And again, it sucks that he had another injury and stuff. But if I'm thinking about him in his shoes right now, dude, I would be fuming. I would be really bad. But it's a story for another time. When he'll get his chance, and he will. He definitely will. That guy's got a long career ahead of him. So it's just going to fuel more fire.
I just think him and Celebrini are too similar right now. And I think
of course. Yeah, you make a good point there.
Yeah, and I
But-
think
but still.
Celebrini. Yeah, I think Celebrini was the correct choice over Bedard because Celebrini's two-way game is better. Bedard is a passer, playmaker, sniper. He's not a two-way guy. I don't put Bedard on the ice to play defense. You could play Celebrini in a couple of different situations, but Bedard is offensive minded first, and I think Canada wanted a little bit more of a more well-rounded structure.
Yep.
In the way
And
I see it in that case. Yeah.
Celebrity's having a great year this year.
Yeah, he's on pace for over 100 points.
Yeah,
Dude's he's unreal, dude. He's unreal.
And he's just having such a better season. And it's just the consistency behind it. That's just all what it comes down to. And you don't want to bring a guy in like a Bedard who's he's got trouble with injuries, he does. And you don't want to waste a roster spot for a guy, he's already been hurt twice this year. What happens when people are playing for Olympic gold? You know what I mean? It's just, I think overall it was the right move for Team Canada.
Yeah, I can agree on that.
Yeah.
But also,
it's not to say that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Steve. It's not to say that Bedard is not going to be a future Team Canada candidate. I think once Sidney Crosby retires from the game of hockey, I think you're going to definitely see Bedard possibly move into that slot. Like when other players just start to lose their step, or Bedard just evolves into that player where they just can't help but take him. So I don't think it's over for Bedard. It's definitely not over for Lane Hudson. It's not over for those guys, who made their case.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I just still am baffled that Jason Robertson didn't make it over JT Miller. I just want to throw up all over the place.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
That dude is not
everywhere.
He's just not a good teammate, it seems. And maybe guys would defend him and try and say otherwise, guys especially playing with him because they're his teammates. But that, just by the look of him, he just screams locker room cancer to me. But I don't know. He's on the team.
Exciting. I'm going to be watching as much of that hockey as I possibly can. In fact, I wish the NHL brought back something similar to the Four Nations. Hell yeah. I'd love that. Get rid of the stupid whatchamacallit all-star game, which is I used to be in favor of that. Now I'm just like, hell no. You gave me something like the Four Nations. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they want to bring the World Cup of Hockey back by 2028 as well too. So we'll get to see more best on best action within 2 years. So
that'll be fun to watch if they bring it.
Love it.
I want to highlight though.
What are you saying, Steve?
I want to highlight the fact that Swayman might actually get a chance to start in the Olympics this year.
Yeah, Hellebuck's not having that great of a sean.
He better.
I mean, he's definitely the number 2 guy right now. Like he's definitely dressing. But I think he has a real shot of contending for the number 1 spot.
Yeah, and that's something, and they're gonna keep monitoring that as it gets closer. We're about a little over a month away. They're gonna see how the guys are playing, what their shape they're in, and who just who's riding their hot hand. Who would you turn and go to if it's USA Canada? 5 minutes left to go. Who's gonna stand that wall? We're gonna wait and find out. But I think you're right, Chava. I mean, I think he does really present a solid case. And in the phone call that the Bruins posted, or maybe it was the NHL kind of whatever, but it was when Sway got the call. It just seemed that they had more, confidence in having Sway on and like an idea of actually wanting to play him. It looked like they are like. They're giddy to have this guy on the USA roster because they know the vibes he brings, they know what he brings to the room. And, given the success he's had and the bounce back he's had this year, all that, trends towards you getting to have your country's logo and numbers plastered on your chest, and you're fighting for it, and you're trying to prove to be the best. And I hope he gets a chance for that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to point out that the 3 goalies are very similar: Ottinger, Hellebuck, and Swayman. Hellebuck has a goals against average of he has a 2.58 and a save percentage of .905. Swayman has a goals against of 2.8 and a save percentage of .906. Ottinger has a goals against of 2.62 and a save percentage of .905. The only difference is that Hellebuck has played 23 games, only 9 wins. The other 2 goaltenders have at least played 27, and they have at least 16 wins. So it's kind of something you need to consider, and you know, other advanced analytics go into it. But no, I also agree. I think right now Jeremy Swayman is going to back up Jordan Connor. Hellebuck might be the odd man out. I think that might be it. But we'll see how they look as. I will be excited to see how that looks as they go, you know, abroad and then they start practicing, because then you're going to start seeing what that will look like. Very exciting times, guys. Very exciting times.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, a lot of hockey left to be played, fellas. A lot of hockey. A lot more hockey coming too in the form of the Olympics. Christ, we're going to have a lot of that. And yeah, vibes are good. Vibes are good. Nothing is doom and gloom yet. Nothing is doom and gloom. Guys, let's go to the Big Bad Bruin. Obviously we had to cover 5 games this week. So it was a lot for us to watch and a lot for us to consider. You know, so before we went on our little winter break, the Bruins had suffered a 6-2 loss to Montreal at home, 4-1 loss to Buffalo in Buffalo, 2-1 OT loss to Calgary in Calgary, 6-2 win in Edmonton, and a 3-2 overtime winner in Vancouver. So it was a lot to watch, a lot to keep track of, and a lot to do.
Yeah,
who wants to lead this off?
I guess. I mean, I'll lead off. You know, I'm pretty much. I just put in our notes that I said what Cam said for the Big Bad Bruin, which Fraser Minton, man. You know, again, this week was tough and ups and downs for sure. But what are you doing, Cam? Oh, actively changing notes right now. Yeah, definitely Fraser Minton. That guy just plays the game right, and he, as Pasternak said after his, you know, cinematic performance, he has the ability to be an elite player, and I really think he is going to be one. You know, it doesn't mean he's scoring 40 goals, 80 points. He's just a player you look to be responsible, and on both ends of the ice, and a great playmaker. And he's just getting better week in, week out. And he showed up in his hometown, scoring 2 goals in a W against Vancouver, you know, his hometown. How cool is that? And in front of it was like 60 plus friends and family. You know, you dream of stuff like that. And so he's just continually a very bright spot on this team that's middling here and there, as we talked about in this episode. But God, I just love watching him play. He's so dynamic, and he's only 21. He's only going to get a lot better. I totally did not leak the script.
Jack, yeah, I agree with you. It's Fraserman, and it was just the kid just continues to impress. I think night in, night out, he's one of your most consistent Bruins. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the 7th player award. He's just every night he's noticeable. He tries. You can clearly see. I think the only from that third line is a scoring right winger. Outside of that, I think the third line with Tanner Jeannot and Min, it works. I don't like Kostelic there. I think he's best served out at the 4th line, but you got to give a lot of credit to Fraser Minton and his style of play and his defensive responsibility as a budding two-way forward. So for me, it's Fraser Minton. Chavo.
Sound the horn.
Oh, I love the horn. Love it.
Scared of that horn. That horn will be playing at my funeral as I'm risen to the gods.
Do we have it? Do we have the sweep? Do we get it?
We have the sweep. It's Minton.
Oh, let's go. I love it, dude.
It's Minton.
Oh.
It's again, you guys summed it up pretty well. It's again, he's the most consistent guy out there pretty much every night. And you know what you're getting from him. And you know the ceiling that he has is pretty tall. And so it's just he's getting better every game too, and he's getting more consistent and his two-way game is, obviously a very bright spot on the Bruins, and again, very entertaining to watch. And you kind of look forward to seeing him out there and what he can do. And he potted 2 nice goals. What was it, last night? And then I believe he had a goal against Calgary, right? That was pretty nice too. And
It had to be a game before because Peak had the goal against Calgary and then they lost in overtime. But it was one of that I can't think of it. But yeah,
he had a beautiful goal earlier in the week, and it's just he's out there working hard, and on a team where it seems doom and gloom for me at least, he is a bright spot.
I wish I had a boo you suck thing on here just to be like, oh wait, there it is.
Anytime Steve just brings down the hammer, we're just like boo.
Damn, dude.
Someone has to bring down the hammer. You guys are too positive.
Yeah, no, someone has to balance out me and Cam's just altruistic. Bruins are awesome. They're gonna win the cup. They're the best.
Oh,
hold
on. I don't know if I ever said the Bruins are gonna win the cup. I think I was very realistic saying that we are not a contender, but that's fine.
I don't know. I could leak some chats.
You're still a delusional Bruins fan. That's the problem.
100%. But here I'll be pretend realistic. But off of this podcast, guys, I will be like, hell yeah, guys. Did you see that 6-2 loss? Cup's back on, baby. You need to lose to know how to win, guys. That's just it. We are going 40-0 for the remainder of the season. Hell yeah. That's gonna be me off the air. And then reality sets in next Sunday while we're sitting here doing this. I'm just like, guys, we fucking suck. Oh, wow. Oh, I love playing the horn. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Thank you for giving that to me. I know
that's going to get him through his week. That's going to just get him through.
Get him through.
It is. Guys, week look ahead. Very winnable games. I feel like we've been saying that forever.
I know. Again, and that's what Chava goes back to. Why it's like frustrating at times where the doom sets in. It's like you have winnable games, and then in the Flames last week, oh God, that was brutal. And they're clearly one of those teams. Again, selling in the NHL, as we talked about, it's kind of overrated. It's really tough to do, but they're trying. They're right down and below, and they're really concerned with other things as some other teams are. So. Yeah, I mean, we got another decently light schedule this upcoming week. What's it going to be?
Yeah, I mean, well, I can tell you what it's going to be after Steve tells me what his thoughts are.
You want me to pick the wins and losses?
I don't know. I thought you were about to say something, so that I just paused. You just went.
Oh, yeah, I was. I mean, the real frustration comes with the loss to Montreal. Again, it was a winnable game.
Oh, definitely.
And it was so close, and then the floodgates really just opened. And again, you have 3 games straight just like that. And how can you not be frustrated?
I agree.
And these are all winnable games as we sit here and say it, and then we lose to Montreal in the fashion we did, and then we lose to Buffalo in the fashion.
I called it though. I called against Buffalo.
You did, and you know what? Like,
wow, Jack gets one right, and the whole freaking world has to stop.
Let's go. Suck my fat one, Cam.
It's not about being right or wrong. It's about the fact that was a winnable game, and we just pissed it away. And that is the Bruins fashion: is taking games that you should be winning, or at least on paper you should be winning, or even during the game, and then you just completely let go and the floodgates open, and I'm sitting there throwing my hat against the wall and on the floor and screaming all the obscenities in the world, and my mother's looking at me like I have 12 heads, and my girlfriend's her eyes are bulged out of her head because she's like, I can't believe you're acting like this. And
poor Marissa.
It's just again, every week is the same routine with me.
I think they have therapy for that, Steve.
All right, Cam, what are your predictions, bud? Let's go.
Well, we got the Kraken in Seattle. This will be the end of the 5-game road trip that the Boston Bruins went on the West Coast on Tuesday, 10 p.m. Because, by the way, I am with one of my friends, and and former HiBruiNation co-host Matt Vogel, who is now petitioning to get rid of 10 p.m. starts. Amen, brother. I am so with you on that. You have no idea how annoying it is. Then we got the Flames on Thursday, Rangers on Saturday, and then again, guys, we have a back-to-back. The Penguins on Sunday. It's terrible. And that's a 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. start times on Saturday and Sunday. Those are awful. Also, matinees should go away as well. 7 p.m. starts just seem right to me. I'm going to go win at the Kraken.
World doesn't evolve around you, Cam.
It does now. I'm going to go win in Calgary. You just got to hope that the Bruins really are going to have a chip on their shoulder. That 2-1 OT loss, a game that you felt like that they really should have won. It's going to be at home. So hopefully that goes into a win. And the Rangers, Saturday, 1 p.m. loss. It's just the Bruins historically have played poorly against matinees, against New York teams. I don't know what it is. And the Penguins, 5 p.m. on Sunday. It's going to be a win. The Penguins are a team I think you really need to beat, dude. They're starting to show struggles, and Stuart Skinner's in net, and he has more holes than him than Swiss cheese. So those are my thoughts on it. Jack.
Hold on, I gotta lock in for a second. There's some interesting stuff going on the screen right now.
We're back.
Holy shit! Oh my god. Okay. Anyways, maybe we'll mention that in a second. But anyways, all right. Mr. Tearing at 50%, Jack Finn. All right. Yeah, I think you want to end the road trip strong, and Kraken is an even more meddling team than you. They're having more of a difficult season, and I really think you should be able to pick that team apart. Late start time stinks, but I think that is a win. Flames, definitely chip on your shoulder. I would be going out there and hitting Blake Coleman every single shift. I don't know. I don't like that guy. I don't like him. And he went after our boy Mitten.
Ugly.
He does. And again, he's hopefully a nice guy off the ice, but he went after our boy Mitten, and I took that personally. So I hope you pound them into the freaking ground. So win. And then we get to the Rangers, even though it's an ideal start time. And yeah, matinees against New York teams, we just fall flat. You said it, Cam. But I think that is also going to be a win. I hope that's a statement win. Even though the Penguins have their holes, though, I mean, you've got Sidney Crosby, and that dude is playing bananas. And even for their problems, at times the Penguins show promise in a division like the Metro that is very tight as well. And I think they're in a similar position to us as well. I mean, not as good goaltending. Their goaltending is pretty atrocious. So I think, and unfortunately on the back end of our games, again, I hope the Kraken, they come out strong, but the back end of our games we usually can fall flat. So I think the Penguins will have our number. So I'm going win, loss. All right, Chavo.
Quite an astute explanation.
Oh, thanks, Cam. I try. I was a communication major.
I've been tossing this back and forth all week, looking at these picks. And initially, I just had straight L's.
We were trying to keep ourselves together for so long. And anyone who's watching the video version of this week's podcast, you will see about like 2 to 3 minutes ago, me and Steve are just looking at each other because I'm seeing what he's doing, and he sees what I see what he's doing, and I couldn't believe it. My eyes bulged out so wide, even in my big old blue light glasses. I was like, "What the fuck?" So yeah.
Steve, I think that those predictions would have been too real, buddy. Like, not too real, but like just too doom and gloom. Like
exactly. He has been doom and gloom this episode, and for right reasons. But like, damn,
you just keep it up for the rest of the week. It's just like you can screw this team. I'm sick and tired of watching this team and getting frustrated.
Your failures. Failures.
Exactly. That's what they are, and it's just disappointing every week. But I decided to change my mind for the viewers' purpose. Because who gives a shit about my standings in this pick? Last week completely screwed me over, and I'm not even going to be able to rebound from that. So I don't even care about it anymore.
I don't care. I do what I want.
Exactly.
I do what I want.
I wanted to be crowned king, but it kind of just got to me. This team just got to me this week, and I'll go back to my sensible picks. So at Kraken, definitely a loss. I just don't feel confident that the Bruins are going to
Definitely.
are going to squeak by. I don't know what it is. It's just I have a feeling in my gut saying, nah, it's just pack it up, end of the road trip, just go home. Flames, on the other hand, win because they'll finally get home and maybe they'll go see their kids and their wives and girlfriends, and it'll put a smile on their face, and maybe they'll play with some, intent and some, I don't know, balls for once. And Rangers, we're going to lose because it's a matinee game. And, we suck at matinee games, and the Rangers won the Winter Classic, and they're riding the high about that. And, they still are fighting for a playoff spot, but who cares? It's the Rangers. And Penguins, we should win that game because why not? Sidney Crosby, yeah, he's good, but the Penguins aren't. And I'm not confident that they'll beat the Bruins if Swayman plays.
It wasn't even a Winter Classic, by the way. It's more like a summer showdown.
Oh my
It was
god!
a stadium series.
That's basically what it did.
It was basically a pond hockey game in Florida.
I didn't enjoy the Winter Classic.
Nope, I don't think anybody did. It was quite terrible.
Yeah. Who doesn't love it? A pond hockey with an actual pond, in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I was. Okay, so Steve's an even week, and Jack and I have. Say that again.
I said a lot of Rangers fans at the game, though.
Did he just? I would imagine it's New York. I think New York fans tend to travel well as well. Well, Steve, 500 week that you got, so okay, not too bad. And Jack and I have just over 500. Okay, sweet. I think we're at 75% with that. Sweet. Okay, awesome. Wow, Mr. Doom and Gloom was all freaking L's. I had to do my best not to pee myself laughing as I'm watching you type that in.
I totally just showed it. I didn't even care. Like I held it in, but I if you watch the video, I was like, oh, like that cat, like the speaking of cats, like the cat meme of them going, oh.
Oh God. Guys, final thoughts before we close out tonight's episode.
No more doom and gloom.
No. He does what he wants. He's the honey badger.
I don't know. Just in general of the vibe for this team, you wanna keep building on that momentum as they say a lot after their wins, and the post game quotes in this past week was like, if once we get going, we build on that momentum, we can build on something special. But it's like, in the really state of your team and the pieces you have, I mean, I don't know how much you can build on. So I hope for more positive vibes. I hope Fraser Minton keeps tearing up this league. And you really ask us to give our final thoughts. What do you else?
Oh, he's out. Oh, he's gone. All right. Woo. Oh, I have too much fun. Someone's gonna take the soundboard away from me here.
Oh my God.
Steve, sorry, Jack. Continue with your final thoughts.
No, here's my final thoughts. Go Bruins. Steve, go. I'm done.
Go quick.
Go.
Stop taking penalties, and I don't know. Remember the keys when you want to start playing the game. I don't know. Just actually start the game the way you want to do it, and stop making me so goddamn pissed off where I throw shit at the floor and the walls. Thanks, Bruins. Thanks, guys.
He has to go to therapy.
Clearly. Guys, I got nothing else except for this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. That'll do it for this episode.
Fuck you.
Go check out don'tpuckwithmedia.com for all of our blogs. Don't forget to follow us on our Twitter, our TikTok, and soon to be Instagram. for more shit. God, you just interrupted the flow. It's so good. Don't forget to connect with us through our website, or you can send us a direct message on Twitter and any of our socials for you guys to have your thoughts featured on an episode, as always. And remember to like and subscribe and comment on our YouTube videos as well. Until next time, guys, as always, we love you and go Bruins.